Angela Civitella with Intinde is back with us now. Now we've got the tips for you if you're going to be out there looking for a job. And Angela, tell us, what are your top tips?
So it's really important now more than ever to show, since there's so much competition out there, probably for the same position, show how different you are than the other candidates. And how do you do that? Now would be a good time maybe to show how you've handled this pandemic year. Did you contribute to a community center? Were you involved in a food bank? Did you help a neighbor? The human aspect, the human connection is more and more prevalent now in the interview process. Employers want to know, what do you stand for as a person? How can you contribute over and above your skill set to my company? So now would be a good time to bring that to the forefront, okay? Also, another important thing to showcase is the ability to be flexible with your skill set. What we were talking about a little bit before. Even though you come in, with a certain resume in terms of what you've done in the past, it's important to also explain to them that you're very flexible, that you have the ability to maybe pivot from one department to another with certain skills. Maybe it's important to tell them, whatever it is that I can do for this department, I think that I'm very beneficial as well in this department. Let them know that you've taken the initiative to know where you would matter in the business. Another tip would be, in the advent of collaborating, we've always spoken about having to have a very strong collaboration sense when you enter a business. Now is definitely the time to be also an independent thinker. It's important to show that you have initiative, kind of like an entrepreneur, that you have your own initiative as to how to handle something. Depend less on being guided and trained, but that you have some sort of own resource that you can tap into when given a task and or a project to do. Initiative is important to show. And another tip that I think is at the forefront for everybody right now is to definitely detail what kind of apps you're very comfortable with and fluid with. Show that you've gotten your training with your Teams and your Zoom and your Skype and whatever other app there is out there, because we're going to be virtual for a little while longer here. And ultimately, I think a very important attribute to show is how positive and optimistic you are no matter what. And I believe in that. I mean, no matter what is going on around me, I am in service of my clients. And so I have to show up always the same way. And that they look for as well, that no matter what is going on in your world, you show up to work and to add value to the business. I think those are, I would say, the top 5 items to consider when putting yourself out there, and also when looking to see what you can add and modify on your resume.
Okay. I love all those. If, let's say, you've been in a job, where you really don't have a lot of technology experience, how do you get that? Who do you ask help for? Who do you work with to get kind of up to date on technology so you can show that you can do it to a new employer?
So, ironically, because every business now is so dependent on all this technology, there's a lot of businesses that are doing some in-house training. Take advantage of that. Even if you may be on your way out, take advantage of it anyway. And there are a lot of training programs out there. There's a lot of seminars. There's a lot of webinars that are training a myriad of people to be more proficient when it comes to using these apps. Take advantage of them. But now is the time. There are so many to choose from because everybody is on a learning curve when it comes to these apps right now.
Okay, that's some good advice. There's probably somebody in your household who could help you out as well, right? Yeah, and let me ask you this. So, resume. A lot of people, have kind of been doing it the same way for years, but it's really changing a lot. I see a lot of people putting photos on resumes now. Is the cover letter still a thing? And do you have to put a statement on your resume? What kinds of things are employers looking for?
Although the resume is always a great blueprint as to who you are, employers are more and more looking for a human connection with you. So you need to make your resume come to life. You got to give it life. So you got to give it a third dimension. You have to explain not just what you've been doing, but who you are and how your journey in your career has changed you. And that is something that you can express when you're in front of the person that's interviewing you. Don't be shy. Let them into your world. Let the exchange become more personal. And that way the information on paper is no longer just on paper. You actually give it another dimension to it. And a lot more is given and offered to the person interviewing you, and you're going to get a lot more out of it as well, because you'll see how they respond to what you're telling them about you.
Mm-hmm. And what are people wearing now to interviews, whether they be in person, which probably isn't happening very often now, or if it's, through a Zoom interview? What's the best thing to wear?
I got to tell you, nothing makes me show up in a more professional way than to be fully dressed. That's me.
Yeah.
But I wish I could tell you that I'm wearing shorts, but I'm not. I'm in professional gear.
I guess you could be wearing pajama pants under there.
But I'm not. It puts you in, I really believe it puts you in the right frame of mind when you show up virtually as you would show up if you were to meet the person at the office. Dress up. Even though they only see you halfway, dress up all the way. It's going to put you in that frame of mind, in that zone that we call, whereby you will be now speaking and exuding professionalism and a certain presence that you want to convey to your future employer.
Okay, and one last question. The background. I see your nice background there for this interview. What should the background look like for anybody doing that interview on Zoom?
A lot of people do these Zoom interviews in their garage, okay? And they show the scooter and the bike. Please don't do that, okay? Use the background that the Zoom has. Put up anything to make it look because the focal point has to be you. There should be no distractions in the background, none. I mean, I have a nice background. People would maybe be curious as to what's behind me. Mm-hmm. The important thing is that I blend in. So you're actually paying attention to what I'm talking about, rather than looking at that odd thing in the corner or that thing that's you don't quite understand what it is. So try to be as neutral as possible with your background so that the focal point is you and what you're saying.
I love it. Angela Civitella with Intinde, and you can find out about the business and find out how to get a job. Just go to intinde.com. All right, coming up.